Hello, this is I, Basakia, and I know that oftentimes when I do gameplay stuff, I I don't use voice that often because I would rather just let the gameplay speak for itself. So today, I am going to, in some way, speak for the gameplay. Speak as to why things have changed because this is Exodus. For those who don't know, I made a little mod in Halo called Halo Reach Prometheus, and it gained a bit of traction. And so now I am making an update to that mod, so all of the things that would entail, right? So Exodus was a level that was a bit contentious. It's a level where people feel as though it was perhaps a bit more challenging than it needed to be, perhaps. And as a result, here we are in July 2021, and I am doing my best to kind of not just improve things with more variety in encounters and more variety in gameplay, but also make things a bit less brutal on this level, a bit more of a learning curve. So there will be some spoilers in terms of if you don't want certain content to be spoiled, perhaps you would like to find the kind of like Easter eggs yourself kind of thing. I wouldn't recommend watching the video past this point. Anyways, so we're going to kind of proceed here. You start with the Hailstorm pistol, a little bit more ammo than you had before. I had toyed with still having you spawn with a shotgun, but I'll have you spawn with a Needler with 2 mags plus an additional 2 shots of ammo. It's the Twilight Needler. I think that this gives you a little bit more reach. However, if you explore up top, you will find the Bullseye Rifle. I've mentioned this in a couple of the recent videos, but the Bullseye Rifle has been improved a little bit. The reticle is based off of the Magnum reticle, obviously with some slight changes, but the big thing is it now has a bit of like a Halo 5 style smart scope. It's about a 1.5 times scope, and the nice thing about this is it really just kind of helps you focus down when you're trying to aim for headshots. It doesn't seem like a big deal when you're outside of combat, but once you're into combat, it does help a lot. And like I said, if you are, looking to kind of get an edge early game, you just kind of explore, you go up to the tower, and yeah, you get some grenades, you get the Bullseye Rifle. So yeah, a familiar friend from level 1 and 2. Of course, we still have the skirmishers here early on. They're using... This is introduced on this level. It is not in the campaign before this. But we have the Harbinger Needler, which is very powerful up close. If you still want to use the shotgun, it is still here. You have a handful of rounds, and you can kind of use them as you see fit in the upcoming segment. We're going to forgo that and hold on to all of our Magnum and Bullseye ammo. It's notable that there are different ways that you can play this out.
That's a negative. Keep your eyes open, troopers.
Didn't quite kill him. It is also notable that all enemies take bonus headshot damage in this mod. And you might say, well, I can always headshot the Covenant, so what do you mean by that? Well, most... okay. That's the best way to describe it is. Normally, guns like the Magnum, the good headshot, obviously you hit them in the head with no shields, they die. The big difference in this mod now is that if you're using a gun like, say, the Bullseye Rifle here, that does not traditionally headshot, enemies will die faster if you hit them in the head. The exact way it's calculated is if an enemy is at 50% health or lower, and you hit them in the head with any weapon, if they take any type of headshot damage, then you can notice, like right there, it killed them pretty quickly. If you hit them in the head, even with a non-headshot gun, it will kill them faster. And yeah, I did add this little jackal here. I think this was kind of cute. that you go around the corner expecting that the suicide jackals are your only real problem, and now you have this jackal major here. And it's kind of a cute little encounter. It's not really anything special, but it's something that can kind of ambush the player, do a little bit more damage than they expect, maybe force them to use one of their grenades that they've gathered from their grapples here to deal with them. I think that this position right here is this kind of an interesting little, not quite a puzzle, but it's an interesting little fight. Thought that was kind of cute. Just a little addition, very minor. So you ground the corner. And yeah, you can notice that as long as you're aiming for the head, enemies drop a lot faster now, even if you're using non-headshot guns, and I think that that is a cute little detail. It's fun. So, it definitely opens up a lot of space for what guns you want to pick up in any given situation. Halo kind of always has this problem where you're always either picking up a weapon that can destroy enemy shields, or you are picking up a weapon that can headshot them after you destroy their shields. And so now you have a bit more space, right? Where you're like, well, sure, I can pick up this headshot weapon that can instantly, hit them in the head and kill them, or I could keep something like the bullseye rifle, where it's hyper accurate and doesn't really lose accuracy on range or on sustained fire. And as long as I'm aiming directly at their head, I can still kill them in the same way that I could kill them with like a battle rifle or something like that. So that I think is interesting. Like you'll see there, I was hitting him in the body and like it wasn't doing as much damage, but as soon as I start hitting those headshots, they go down pretty fast. Like I said, this fight isn't too different. I've really just added a couple of the minor things, like I mentioned. There's a couple of jackals in kind of spicy locations. This jackal is guarding ammo for the Magnum, so I kind of wanted it to be like a reward. You kill this jackal here, and you get the reward of additional Magnum ammo, although of course you're using ammo to try to kill them. And they're, again, like in a pretty frustrating position where you really do have to kind of focus them down. I like that. Another jackal back there. They don't do too much in this section, and I'll just flat out say it. There is not pathing in this section for these jackals, unfortunately. The pathing in this section is kind of interesting. Bungie basically said, well, this pathing is just going to have suicide grunts, so we don't really need to have pathing in this segment, and so they didn't. And that is why the enemies just kind of stand around. But I think it works for the shielded jackals, where they're mostly just holding position. Just kind of little tidbit there. You've got a lot of suicide grunts up top. You kill them, and it kind of clears out the enemies here. That allows you to progress. There are 2 frag grenades down here. Another skirmisher there. I'm going pretty slow to try to kind of demonstrate a lot of the little elements here. This is the first example. If you don't happen to know exactly how to kill the suicide grunts to have them all blow up these enemies, there is a skirmisher champion up here. And he has this gun. It's quite fun. It's the Valiant Spate. Quite powerful, in fact. Gonna go out here. And we're gonna have our wonderful new groups. I've detailed them in quite a few other videos, but yeah, there's a variety of new brute classes now that I think is a lot of fun. We're gonna do a combination of assault rifles for now. We'll do the bullseye and the commando. So you'll see that the brutes with armor, specifically, have shields. They have armor, I should say. Where the gold shields are essentially Halo 3 brute armor, where it doesn't regenerate, but it does protect them from headshots and other similar deaths. So you have multiple brute classes now. You have the unarmored brutes, like you saw, some of them not really wearing much armor at all, a helmet at minimum, or at maximum, I should say. They don't have the power armor shields. You only really get brutes with the gold shields that don't regenerate, kind of Halo 3 style, if they have the combination of like the shoulder pads and everything. And then if they're just unarmored, they don't get the shields at all. Then the next rank up you have is the Brute Majors. They are in red, much like the elite majors or officers, right, are in red. And then instead of Brute Ultras, you have Brute Alphas, and they are in black armor, black to gray armor with kind of red emblems or insignias on them. Anyways, the flamethrower, this is a big point of contention. If you remember earlier on in this mod, a big point of contention was the flamethrower. The official name of the torture. The flamethrower projectile, of course, based off of the flamethrower projectile that Vengeful Bottom had in Reach Evolved and has been added to infantry-based firearms, right, in this mod. So a lot of people felt as though it was a bit too powerful at long range, and so its projectile speed has been slowed in such a way where up close it's still very powerful, and at mid to long range it can still deal damage if it connects. The difference is with the slower projectile speed, players have a lot of room to avoid it, a lot of room to strafe and juke it, which feels a lot better from a player perspective. And on top of that, the damage profile has been changed so that much more of the damage is up front, and there's less of the I got hit, I feel like I've gotten to cover, but the damage is delayed, and so as a result, you get to cover and then you still die from the burnout damage. That's been corrected so that burnout damage is not quite calculated the same way. Anyways, we'll kind of demonstrate that here. So we still have all these jackals. And now we have the captain who's using the flamethrower. You can notice, the projectile speed is slow enough where you can kind of see it at long range and go like, okay, I should back up. I should not be running right into this. The captain goes down from a couple of sniper rifle rounds, combined with my earlier bullseye rifle damage. We're going to switch out here, give this guy the sniper rifle, and use a little bit of this commando ammo to shatter their shields. As has been mentioned before, the purple weapons in this mod tend to have bonus damage against shields, as far as their damage profile is concerned. So we have a lot of allies here. We even have some civilians with guns, as you may notice. We have so many trooper allies that some of them aren't even in our squad. So yeah, they'll continue to follow us kind of throughout the level, which is fun. I've changed up the spawns for grunts in this segment of the level here, so there's no grunts that are spawning like right here this time. They're kind of spawning more down there, as you can see. And then we still have our quality, I think it's like 16 grunts I have in this area that are charging forward. I've introduced you to the flamethrower already, so I don't really want to harass the player with the flamethrower again in this segment. This segment I think is more okay. You've seen the flamethrower already. It has great intro with the captain. Now you're going to see the brutes using a combination of brute plasma spates, valiant spates, and spike rifles, or the eviscerator, essentially, from Reach Evolved. So they have their kind of three weapons, where you have the brute spate, which is strong but no scope. You have the valiant spate, which has a scope, a pretty strong scope, in fact, but and is accurate, but isn't quite as strong up close. And then you have the eviscerator, the Reach Evolved style spike rifle that's more like almost like a mauler or a shotgun, that's very strong up close and kind of weaker at longer range. I've tweaked its properties a little bit. It's a bit stronger at mid-range now, a bit more usable at mid-range than it was before. And then you have the second kind of new brute gun intro, which is the Mulcher, which is the captain with the machine gun on high. I think the focus really needs to be on him for this fight, and I think that that's fine, rather than brutes also charging you with the flamethrower, as you're still kind of learning what the counterplay to that flamethrower is. So yeah, the torture is very, very strong. It's still going to be in quite a bit of this campaign, but it's not going to be shoved in your face as quickly. Again, this brute with the Mulcher is more of like an important, I think, intro here. Whoa! And so yeah, Hopefully I don't die too much in this demo. It would make me seem like a bad Halo player. But, yeah, I did die there, unfortunately. I didn't back up quite far enough or advance quite far enough there. The counterplay essentially was moving over here, which is where I should have gone. But I chose not to, because I'm a little bit sleepy. Being completely honest. I'm also kind of jumping over civilians. I've added quite a few civilians to this segment, and again, many of them have chosen to pick up various guns, be them human guns or Covenant guns, which I think adds a little bit of flavor to this segment. There's that Valiant Spate and a civilian running directly in my line of fire. It's great. You can see again, the bullseye rifle does a pretty good job of dealing with the unarmored groups. The main issue is really the armored groups, where you really need the kind of heavier guns. There we go, that's a completely unarmored group. There's quite a few variants in terms of armor permutations to the brutes. We're going to be using the Valiant Spate to kind of use our scope and do some damage at longer range, crack their shields a little bit faster. Keep in mind that even the Valiant Spate can do bonus headshot damage, so we are trying to aim for the head here. You can see we've knocked off the helmet and scored a couple of headshots, and that captain goes down. So yeah, just, you know, cool little detail that even the captains, or even the Valiant Spate, which is like a plasma pistol kind of auto kind of gun, can score headshots. It's cool. You can notice too, it gets slightly less accurate over time as it overheats more and more. It's sustained fire with a scope, sustained damage with a scope. I think it's a really cool gun that adds a lot to the sandbox on this level, where it's like, I want to kind of reach out and do damage to brute armor at range, but I also want to have some kind of other precision weapon or other kind of auto to take advantage after that. So it's like, yeah, I know that traditionally the kind of combo a lot of players used in this level was a combination of like the commando and like a shotgun, the commando and the bullseye rifle maybe. The bullseye rifle wasn't that popular, so it was really more like any weapon on this level that could kind of have a scope and do damage at long range and a shotgun. But I'm hoping that with the new setup, the bullseye rifle is again a bit more empowered. It certainly doesn't have quite as strong a scope as the commando. You can see the commando scope is here, right? And then you have the bullseye scope is there. The commando scope is very focused. It's very much like, I want to hit these things at longer range, as opposed to the bullseye. Yeah, like I said, just trying to expand kind of the usability cases in more guns across the board on this level. We still have a decent amount of allies. We've been trying to equip them as much as possible. Gonna rip this turret. And we're gonna kind of run back over here past the Moa Burger stand here.
We need to hold this position.
Hopefully our fire team is not completely butchered by this Phantom as they run out to watch us grab a machine gun and then kind of stand out here uselessly. But yeah, your allies will follow you through thick and thin, which is fun, I think. Taking a decent amount of damage here, just trying to avoid health damage. Use the rest of my machine gun damage to try to limit, yep, there we go, try to limit the amount of damage that Canada's doing. We've got our captain here, and the commando is always a great choice for dealing with the absurd amount of health that these captains have. Kind of in an odd spot. You're supposed to be holding out in the middle of this room, but we kind of ended up just out here. Use a commando to take down the shields, then switch to the bullseye to do damage to their health. Always fun. Little combo there. We've got a brute miner. Miners are, of course, the ones with the blue armor. Again, more use of this wonderful Valiant Spate. So, we've got a decent amount of ammo here. Gonna push up. I've of course changed this trooper's weapon to a shotgun, kind of implying that this might be a gun that you want to grab moving forward. It's very, very powerful against brutes up close.
Anything you need. specialists are working a plan, they might appreciate some backup.
The shotgun does somewhere between 300 to 375 damage up close. Very, very powerful weapon. Honestly, one of the most powerful weapons in Prometheus, so it's notable. If you do want to continue to use the commando, there are extra, or not commando, sorry. If you want to keep using the commando, the ODSTs are using the commando. However, if you want to keep using the bullseye rifle, there is bullseye rifle ammo here, which I think is kind of fun. If you look very closely here, you'll see there's commando ammo across the way, along with standard assault rifle ammo and more shotgun ammo. So you have shotgun ammo here, shotgun ammo in the elevator, and shotgun ammo over there. Bullseye here, or sorry, yeah, bullseye here, commando over there. So, you know, I've tried to add a bit more gun variety by tweaking the weapon racks that are spawned in. I think that definitely allows the player to have a bit more expression in how they want to play each segment, giving extra variety. We have our sniper trooper here, of course. The ODSTs use a combination of the battle rifle and the commando. I think the commando is a lovely weapon for the ODSTs to use. That's quite fun. Let's just get this piece of Banshee out of the way, or else it will almost certainly mess up their animations.
Welcome to the Bullfrogs.
Something that I've been kind of fiddling with. I've been noticing that the Banshee wreckage in a lot of these situations does actually mess with the pathing of the ODSEs in this segment. So I'm not really sure if there's a good solution to that, short of just saying on this one level, Banshee debris just deletes itself quicker, or it doesn't generate at all, but, you know. There's a number of interesting skips that you can do in this section, but rather than skip, I'm going to kind of just continue to play this section out. So I think it's important to kind of detail how different the combat is in this version of Prometheus. We've got a brute miner down below. Almost fell off there, that would have been unfortunate. We're going to use our commando to try to thin out some of the weaker enemies. The miner is taking cover. Again, his gold shields represent that his shields will not regenerate. We just kind of have a brute unarmored, kind of a brute regular, a brute militia. A brute without really anything at all. So, you know, rather than just strafing that jackal, we really should be just returning fire. We've got extra commando ammo, as we saw in that weapon rack over there, which we can go grab. We're trying to just thin them out a little bit with our longer range weapons. You notice that brutes are, especially the brute miners, are not the smartest. They won't have the best engagements, but they will retreat if they're like, oh man, my shields are really low. They'll retreat if they feel like they're outgunned. Try to recover at least a little bit of their health, which of course can recover up to a small portion. Lots of jackals using the Harbinger Needler in this section. That hasn't changed. I thought that element of this section was really cool. So projectiles that don't really explode or are like crazy threatening unless they actually land. They're very slow, but if they hit, you would take a ton of damage, like right there. Yeah? And I think that is pretty fun overall. More encouragement of the player strafing is never a bad thing. We're still continuing to try to use our commando to thin them out. Obviously, the commando is pretty good against the jackal miners, but against the majors that are so much more durable in reach, not quite as powerful. And now we have this captain charging in. Thankfully, we were smart enough to grab this shotgun. One more shotgun shell at that range would probably kill them. We'll have to try to finish them off with the commando, yep. We're gonna go grab more commando ammo. You can see that those ODSTs do have the issue that I mentioned, where they are kind of being tripped up by the Banshee debris. It's something that I'm trying to think of, like, what's the most clean, elegant way of fixing that without making Banshee behavior feel odd on this level compared to other levels. So, you know, it's a bit of an issue there, but certainly not an unsolvable one. There we are. I was gonna say, pretty sure there's still some enemies still alive up here. So we're just gonna hammer down this jackal shield with our commando, and as he runs away, we'll finish him off. We've killed off the captain. We're gonna keep on pushing forward. I have the music turned off in these demos because I'd rather just focus in a little bit more on the gameplay. We have a captain with a Ardent Lancer, which is this mod's carbine, essentially. We have grunts retreating across this bridge, which I've always liked this little moment. I added a bunch of more grunts, so there, you see a lot more of the grunts retreating back across the bridge, running away from the ODSTs, and then turning around when the brutes order them back into the fray. I think that's kind of cute. Really happy with that little encounter detail. I hope that people catch that. It looks like a frag grenade took out that brute miner up there. Again, most of the brutes you're going to be running into are brute miners and unarmored brutes like this now, which means that they're not quite as spooky as they used to be. Let's grab this health down here. We're low enough where it's pretty reasonable to pick up some health. Grab more shotgun ammo here. We have to deal with our remaining enemies. The captain, of course. Captains do not currently have regenerating shields. That is subject to change. It's something I'm toying with. Brute alphas, which we will be seeing eventually, do have regenerating shields, and they're quite scary, so I don't want alphas and captains to kind of crowd the same space. And I think it's okay for captains to be very durable, but not have regenerating shields, as opposed to the alphas, which do have regenerating shields and are a bit more evasive. Yeah, I do spawn some more ODSTs. There's some that spawn over here, but now there's some that actually spawn in this back hallway, which I think is kind of cute. They spawn more like right about here-ish, and they start running forward into the area. It's a bit different. There is another bullseye rifle if you run out of other ammo over here. I'm trying to put those little bits and pieces on this level to kind of give you more opportunities if you're not quite playing the level like super clean and making mistakes. There are some kind of ways to kind of get back into like a solid arsenal. Like that Marine has a bullseye rifle as well.
Here's the pad. East end of that tower. Other side. Other side. Entrance is on the other side.
We're going to try to commando this grunt out of that turret, because that's a lot of sustained damage that I would prefer for our troopers to not take. Oh, lots of damage there. We're just going to commando down their shields. It's a big blob there. We're taking a lot of damage. The focus rifle jackals back there are also an issue. More commando ammo here. I'm kind of encouraging you to use it in this segment, along with the rocket launcher, which can kind of be used to hit behind the jackals here and kind of clean up a little bit of this engagement. A decent amount of troopers have died already, which is kind of scary.
Can't hide from me.
We're gonna grab this bullseye rifle here,
Pull the trigger!
and then maybe get our shotgun back.
Got one in my sights. Peekaboo.
I added a few more brutes, just throughout segments where it's like, okay, we'll fight jackals and grunts, and then maybe there's like a brute or two, just kind of chilling. Not quite like a high-ranking commander, but be just like a squad leader. Brute, just kind of chilling.
I can't see him.
The commando is great for these kinds of fights where you just want to do damage at long range, but you also might be charging in at some point. Definitely doesn't have the accuracy of the battle rifle with its zero bloom in this mod. It definitely doesn't have the stopping power of like a sniper rifle or something, but there's something to be said from just having sustained long-range firepower. Looks like this brute, having lost his unit, is finally charging in. So we're gonna grab the rest of our commando ammo here. We have our shotgun, we have our commando, we're pretty well set. And this is going to be the reintroduction of both the Mulcher and the Torture. We have a Mulcher down here, we have a Torture over there. So now it's like, okay, you know what you've been fighting this whole time. You understand how to fight both of these weapons, vaguely. Time to fight both of them at the same time, which I think is fun enough. There's also lots of skirmishers in this section, some jackal snipers, and a lot of drones in this section. This is where I will be having more of the Valiant Spate being used as that kind of sustained firepower I mentioned. That is a hologram, that's cute. We're going to use the rest of our commando ammo to try to pick off some of these enemies. You'll see the slower flamethrower speed gives you just so much more room to react and kind of play fights out. And there's way more brutes in this section, but many of them are lower ranked brutes as they kind of constantly charge down. You know, I've considered adding chapter titles where there weren't chapter titles before, and of course changing this chapter title to a Training Brutes Hallelujah, because that would be fun. Again, the Commando is a pretty choice weapon for this section, but we are slowly but surely running out of ammo. Oh, there's a Brute Major up there. Brute Majors have not been too common in this playthrough so far. They are semi-randomly spawned. He's in the red armor up there. We see him. Picking up this battle rifle. I've considered giving these battle rifles slightly more ammo. They always feel a little bit low on ammo, and maybe giving each one spawned in like an extra magazine might make them a little bit more fun. Got just massive brutes up there, which I think is fun. The main threat is really this guy with this flamethrower, so we gotta start picking him off. Looks like he just went down. We got another brute captain. It would behoove us to take him down as well, kind of decrease enemy morale. Which does matter in this mod. And it changes their formations, it changes how they move, how they act. Another skirmisher with a Valiant Spate. We've taken down the captain. We'll maybe try to save one round of this gun for trading out with an ally. We can find one willing to trade out. Right here. We're gonna switch to the bullseye rifle actually, because there's a lot of ammo for it down here. In general, you pretty much can't run out of ammo for the bullseye. Yeah, okay, we saw the major up there. Majors are a little bit more clever, a little bit more smart than the average brute. You'll notice he's suppressing us from up there. He's throwing grenades from up there. He's being a little bit less risky. You can see his grenade cooldown time was a lot shorter. So yeah, that's fun. You'll pick smarter firing positions to shoot from. And yeah, you can kind of see how the smart scope for the bullseye really just helps out a lot in these segments where I'm just throwing so many enemies at the player. And just being able to engage at slightly longer range is nice. Have that accuracy, have that kind of guarantee of slightly better bullet magnetism and tracking with that scope. There's a Banshee, of course, that flies right past here. That's always fun. Oh, missed it this time. But more importantly, there is another brute with a mulcher. I kind of surprised the player with this, where a brute captain spawns in the mulcher. They're still dealing with enemies up top, and then of course this mulcher might surprise you here and take you out. So it's kind of encouraging you to try to clear out this top as much as possible, because if you're trying to run up while you're still getting shot at by drones and things over there, it's not going to work out well for you. You can kind of hug the, God, the shotgun's so good. The fact that the shotgun is staggered from that far away is just lovely. Focus rifle, of course, very much buffed up in this mod. Does double damage. It does double damage, but it overheats twice as fast and consumes ammo twice as fast. The Eviscerator, or, you know, Reach Evolve Spiker, the HUD's been changed up a little bit. It still shoots the 5 shots per shot, but now, rather than representing that as 5 spikes in the HUD, it represents it at 1 shot, so you can kind of more easily keep track of how many shots you have left, which I'm a big fan of. The melee damage has also been slightly improved. Not too much, but so slightly improved. And yeah, so this I like. I actually like that I'm dying here, because it's proving my kind of point that I wanted to do with this scene, where you fought the Mulcher at long range, and then you fought the Mulcher at long range, and now you have to fight the Mulcher up close. And you're realizing, like, oh man, up close, this is a really scary gun. I've got to respect this thing. Maybe I need to back up. Maybe I need to throw more grenades. Maybe I need to go back and get that sniper rifle and use that round, or use the focus rifles that are kind of littered all over the battlefield now. You know what I mean? So maybe I just need to get up close and shotgun him, you know? And then you finally kill him. You're finally like, okay, I had 2 or 3 deaths, and now he's dead. And now you've got this weapon as a reward, and you're like, oh man, what's this I should probably use this. I've been seeing it around. And then you get a chance to use it, and you just get a chance to demolish these guys. And right when you think, oh, I'm so awesome, there's a chieftain with a mulcher. And you're starting to understand, like, okay, now I get it. This is just kind of like going to be a standard weapon for the heavier brute classes moving on. But yeah, this thing just demolishes enemies. And the chieftain's in the perfect position to suppress you, of course. And you both kind of have your little mulcher war. It's cute and fun. The chieftain is dead. We can pick up more mulcher ammo from him, which is great. Or, you know, pick up one of the many other guns, the focus rifle and all kinds of stuff. There was another mulcher down there, if you remember, and so we can grab ammo from that one. So yeah, establishing this weapon a bit more as like a standard heavy weapon for brutes, I think is fun. And it really, it's fun because it empowers the player too, where the player gets to use the cool weapons a bit more. And you can just see how many of these just random kind of non-armored brutes we have. We have the kind of unarmored brutes that don't really deserve power armor yet. They're like maybe juvenile brutes. They're like early on, you know, in the Covenant hierarchy brutes. Maybe not early, but you understand what I'm saying. They haven't had too much experience yet, and so they're like, we're not gonna give you a power armor suit. You're just gonna run in there with nothing and just fight. We can't afford power armor for everyone. I think that's kind of fun. And then more occasionally you run into the power armor brutes, like this red guy or this blue guy. And you'll notice too, sometimes they have the sash. Other times they don't have the sash, they have like other kind of armor bolted to them. And that's all in the armor permutations for the brute spawns, which are randomized, of course, but with a weighted kind of random selection. So you're kind of seeing, you know, exactly as much as I want you to see as a player, while also having variety for replayability. I think that's fun. Multiple different shirts and sashes and shoulder armors and helmets for the brutes. So yeah, at this long range, I've given you a couple of other long-range weapons like the Commando, and again, the battle rifle to deal with this. We've got more brutes up top with the brute stalkers. We've got grunts charging the bridge. And the brute stalkers are a bit challenging to deal with, because you're trying to deal with them, and you're also trying to deal with grunts crossing the bridge. So you kind of have this dual kind of situation going on here. You're kind of trying to deal with the lesser enemies to deal with the more important enemies, and it's just not working out that well. And so you can kind of keep trying to duel them and maybe get a snipe off with the battle rifle. You don't have that much ammo for the battle rifle. You can maybe go back down and pick up a focus rifle from the previous situations. And you'll notice too that while brute stalkers do not have very high shields, their shields tend to go down very quickly, even on legendary. The big problem with the brute stalkers is their shields regenerate very quickly. And so if you don't take them out, they will kind of melt into the shadows, regenerate their shields, and continue to harass you with the focus rifle or with similar weaponry. So I think that's fun. They're not remotely close to as durable as some of the other brute characters that you'll be running into, but they are frustrating to fight, no question. So we have jackals over there. We're going to push up this way. You got a jackal major, or 3 or 4, guarding this entrance here. You've got more grunts, and this is one of the only times in the campaign where you'll see some grunts using some of the heavier weaponry. There are grunts with the mulcher too, so you can see that if you're like a grunt heavy, you can be kind of authorized to use the heavier brute weaponry too. And occasionally you'll have the unarmored brute charging out, trying to deal with you here. In this section, eventually you'll start to deal with some of the higher rank brute classes. Again, you've already kind of seen that there are stalkers in this section. But you can see like this other brute power armor variants melded into this segment. They're scary. They will do everything that they can to halt your progression here. More jackals. There's quite a few jackals in this segment, which I think are fun. I've given you this super heavy weapon with the mulcher, but I also give enemies that do quite well against the mulcher. I've tried to give these brutes not too instantly threatening weapons outside of the stalkers. The stalkers have the more instantly threatening weapons, like the Ardent Lancer and the Focus Rifle, as opposed to the lower ranked brutes, which have stuff like the Valiant Spate and the Spiker, or the Eviscerator, not quite as instantaneously threatening. But yeah, you can see that's a Grunt Heavy, and he's just hammering the trigger. I think that's cute. What's nice about it is the Grunts aren't quite as hard to kill as, say, a Brute would be with the weapon. So if you're one person that like really wants to be running around using the Mulcher for this entire fight, you can kind of kill the Grunts, take their ammo, and then we're dead, of course. You gotta kind of keep watching out for the Brute Stalkers. They're a lot more crafty in this mod than I've seen them kind of utilized in a lot of other mods. So one strategy that you can employ here, rather than going the way that we went, where we're kind of like going right into their kind of kill zone, is you can go up high, use the Mulcher to kind of clear things out, and now we're kind of behind the scenes up top here. You can do a little bit more damage. You're seeing that there's major brutes down there, and occasionally you may see that there are brute alphas. Brute alphas, you can see brute alphas before this segment, but they're introduced en masse here, where you run into quite a few of them. They are brutes, and you can kind of see down there in like black and gray armor with red insignias, similar to the insignias on the Spiker weapon model itself. And they are top-level kind of brute killers. They're really, really scary, and they're so high ranked that they get a chance to get the regenerating shields that the elites have. So they're quite scary. They know when they're low on shields to retreat. Unlike, say, these brute miners, where they're all going to go up there and then all just get lit up by our Mulcher. You'll notice that the brute alphas aren't doing that. They're staying and kind of hanging back, which is a result of kind of tweaking their ranks and movement properties. So yeah, this is good. This is good. Big fan of this fight now. You're kind of just rotating around, you're trying to figure out, like, okay, I can pick off this character, I can pick off this character, I'm running low on ammo, maybe I need to pick up a slightly different gun. And this is, like I said, when you're running into the most variety, I would argue, of brute weaponry and brute ranks. We're running dangerously low on our Mulcher ammo. We're going to try to switch over to this Focus Rifle here, which is really, honestly, one of the best guns for this fight, along with the Mulcher. The Focus Rifle does a remarkable amount of damage to enemies like the Chieftain in this area. You can see, Brute Stalkers really don't have that much health. Like, 3 short bursts from the Focus Rifle, and the Stalkers are already going down. So the Stalkers have kind of been recontextualized in Prometheus. Before, they were both sneaky and also durable. I've tried to push their identity into more of the sneaky and less of the durable. While still feeling like brutes, you know, they're just less durable brutes. There's that Brute Alpha, you can really see him in all of his glory there. And you notice we did 2 bursts from the Focus Rifle on Legendary, and it didn't even crack the shields. A 3rd burst, and his shields have already regenerated too much. Yeah, they have very, very strong shields, and while their health isn't, like, the strongest of all the brutes, their shields regenerate at a pretty reasonable rate, and so alphas are just kind of the constant, like, oh man, I'm gonna have to kill this guy last in fights, along with chieftains, and I think that's fun. It's a bit more nuanced than brutes have had before, where you saw throughout this level how easily I'm just clearing away brute after brute after brute, but when it comes to the alphas, they're obviously a lot more challenging, and that's fun. It's fun to have an enemy that's a real challenge. So we've burnt through our Mulcher ammo, we've burnt through our Focus Rifle ammo, we have a little bit of commando ammo that we could use, and yeah, Stalkers will do this. Stalkers have a bit more aggressive flanking AI now, and a bit more aggressive searching AI. So when you think you're safe and you move to a safe zone on the level, where obviously the AI shouldn't be attacking you all the way out here, Brute Stalkers now have a bit more aggressive AI when it comes to those kinds of scenarios, where they will actively try to hunt the player past where their original kind of zones would indicate where they can and can't go. I think that's a fun space for them, because they're less durable than the other brutes, and so it gives the player kind of a sporting chance when they're surprised by them. But they're still scary. They're still scary, no question. Using a shotgun even at that range is enough to take out that Major's armor. And now we have another power weapon, the Mulcher. And then, of course, we have those Brood Alphas. And like I said, that Brood Alpha, he was lower on shields. He's gonna run away. He's gonna live to fight another day. Brood Alphas really know their stuff. In some ways, they're even more careful than Chieftains. Chieftains are kind of a bit more slower. They're a bit more slower? No. They're a bit more slow, and kind of like tanky. But the Alphas they'll kind of melt back into the shadows and be like, okay, cool, I'll fight you from a different angle. You can see he's kind of really sticking to that cover back there. Really a big fan of the Brood Alpha AI. I think that I've done a bang-up job with them. He finally goes down. And it's the same Alpha that we've been fighting for quite a while here. So we have our Mulcher, and we have our Shotgun, two very powerful weapons. We're going to try to mosey our way over here, do some damage. And of course, this dropship has dropped off for Alphas, more Majors, and a Captain with a Hammer. I've been considering changing this Captain with a Hammer to a Chieftain with a Hammer, depending upon your difficulty selection. Perhaps on Heroic and Legendary, he would up himself to a Captain. He would up himself to a Chieftain, I should say. The the Alphas are a bit more brazen when they're higher in number. If there's enough of them, they will try to charge en masse like they're doing. But of course, few things in Prometheus can survive the might of the Prometheus shotgun. So fights tend to end pretty quickly when enemies charge into your shotgun's range. We're going to switch to our Commando once again. And kind of gather up grenades, gather up ammo.
How'd you do that, man? Going cool.
We'll go back, get some more Commando ammo. We'll need it.
Send in the evac birds.
Copy, Yankee Niner. Birds away.
We don't have any more Commando ammo, so it's okay. We'll survive. We'll survive with what we have. Again, there's quite a lot of bullseye ammo on this level that that has been there before, but it's more relevant now where the bullseye has its small little buffs, it's a 5% damage buff that I added to it. There's a lot of little things to it that I've added to kind of improve it.
Our fleet's scattered. Pulling back. Hell, we've all got orders to evacuate. Guess some of us just don't like leaving a job half-finished. Get on board, Lieutenant. We've got civilians that need immediate assistance.
Evac transport Delta 1-5 to evac dispatch. Loaded up, ready to go.
Delta 1-5, this is evac dispatch. Copy that. Proceed at your discretion.
Midtown airspace is way too hot. Gonna take an alternate route.
Segment's always been kind of, just fine. So, added a tremendous number of chieftains in this section to kind of reinforce just how almost powerless you are. Where you're like using every shot that you have, you're landing every single shot perfectly. And it's just not enough to stop the brutes, and I like that. I like that a lot. There's chieftains and captains over here, using some of the more powerful weaponry that's been introduced. Captains with the torture, and chieftains with the mulcher and the gravity hammer. And you're just doing everything you can to stop them. There's more soldiers and more civilians in this segment, but you just can't quite hold them back in time, especially on Legendary.
Solid copy, Fox Actual. Long swords unavailable this time. Over.
This is civilian transport 6 Echo 2. I need to go now, Sergeant Major.
Hold on, Echo 2. Start with Dawn. I have multiple commercial craft.
There's wraiths here, but there's also a couple of brutes taking cover behind this rock, which I think are kind of cute. Just little details, you know, that I think are kind of fun.
Souls on board, Sergeant Major. I can't wait any longer.
Negative, Echo 2. I can't cover you. Do not take off.
I might add some more grunts on that beach scene, maybe some other Marines fighting into the wraiths, and kind of add like more of a nuanced battle scene. That could be kind of fun.
Mayday! Mayday!
6 Echo 2. You maintain out.
Negative! We're going down!
Bitch. I can't watch
I'll do what I can to lay down damage on this wraith, because it does actually matter. If you kill this wraith here, it didn't quite kill it. It's okay. Banshee AI gets a little bit weird in this segment, where it's still flying around, and it auto kills itself when you get out of the Falcon. This is something that's in base reach, and I'm worried that messing with this will mess with other scripts in the level, so, you know.
That's been a pain in my ass for too damn long. Give it hell, Spartan.
Two birds. We need to push them back off our beach.
So you'll notice I've added a Spartan laser here as a weapon for the player to kind of assist them, but I've also removed the battle rifles from that crate. So you kind of have to get a bit more creative up close, but at longer range, a Spartan laser is obviously a enormous help. So we're going to get our ODSTs here. You still have your rocket ODST. I haven't removed that from the player. And the rocket ODST helps quite a lot in kind of levying damage against these wraiths, doing what you can. A lot of this segment is still as it was before. You're kind of constantly cycling through warthogs. As soon as one warthog runs out of health, using another warthog. I have considered having the Needler have super combined damage against the Warthog. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that yet. But perhaps having the Needlers have super combined damage against Warthogs might make them a little bit scarier when you're in a vehicle segment. But like I said, the fact that like the Needler really only super combines against organics and vanilla Halo is kind of a staple. So I don't want to mess with too much of that. I do like this kind of blob of enemies that you're fighting in this segment. There's brutes, there's brute captains, there's jackals, there's a handful of skirmishers, there's grunts, there's drones. There's a little bit of everything in this segment, and whatever the rocket launcher at long range doesn't clear is the stuff that you're going to end up fighting. I think that's fun. Occasionally you'll have a brute charging forward. And there's a decent amount of higher ranked grunts, like the Ultras here, wielding the deadly Harbinger Needler, which is quite scary. We'll see, again, the damage that we fired from the Falcon has stuck to that Wraith, so that Wraith was already pretty badly damaged, which saves us some time. There's another Wraith here, and this one actually has its turret. It's a frontal turret manned. As I've mentioned before, those frontal turrets in this mod are destructible. Usually the first rocket will destroy the turret, but often not destroy the gunner themselves, who will usually jump out and fight you. Although that rocket looks like it was a pretty direct hit, so did kill them off. Our Warthog is very, very low on health, so we're going to kind of backtrack and try to find a Warthog with a bit more health, because Warthog and vehicle health in general is separated from player health in this mod, so you kind of have this situation where you want to get a higher health vehicle to kind of keep clearing out these enemies. Because once the Warthog is on fire, it's at 20% or lower health, and yeah, you definitely don't want to be fighting that low health. We got a Brute up top. Brute Chieftain with a Mulcher. We just hit him with 3 separate rockets, so I'm pretty sure he's dead. More Brutes again, kind of acting as kind of NCOs almost for the Jackals and Grunts in this area. I'm a big fan of. But they're still Brutes, so unlike Elites that would kind of stay back and cover, the Brutes will try to ride out to charge into you. Presumably yelling, "Witness me," you know. There are ODSTs that spawn over here, with a Spartan Laser and a Commando. However, it looks like in this particular playthrough they may have expired.
First missile battery, Lieutenant. Get it armed.
And there is that Chieftain who's expired as well. We're going to arm this battery, head back over this way.
Other ones to your south. Sergeant Major. Covenant are banging on my bay door.
So again, you can grab the Mulchers, you can grab the Spartan Laser that I've shown you already. Notably, not only is there that Spartan Laser plus the Spartan Laser attached to that ODST I mentioned, there is another Spartan Laser here. I really did try to give you a lot more heavy weapons for this final confrontation. And you may ask, why do you need so many heavy weapons for this final confrontation? Well, I'll tell you. There are Chieftains, there are Alphas, there are Majors, there are Drones, there are Skirmisher Champions. Oh hey! He didn't expire. He's here now. He's holding with us. Awesome. We've got our Troopers, we've got our ODSTs, we've got a lovely mix of allies here. We've got Captains charging down here with flamethrowers. We've got tons of rocket launchers, we've got Ghosts charging in. It's the proper chaos for a Prometheus mod fight. Captain's charging in. And we've got an Alpha that charged us with a Mulcher, which is great. Whoa! There we go. Looks like, unfortunately, the Warthog is dead. Just gonna kind of try to keep suppressing with the Commando. The Ardent Lancer, even though it doesn't have the best accuracy, is admittedly better than the Commando in like kind of a straight-up trade. More often, you will kind of land your shots at long range against unshielded enemies. 2 people without shields, the Commando is gonna lose pretty much every single time against the Ardent Lancer. The Commando is a much better shield shredder, though. And is better against larger targets for kind of having that spread and faster damage. Whoa! Got Major up there with another heavy weapon. We've got the Torture up there. The section before had too many Chieftains, and the fight kind of became a tedious kind of trial and error fight where you tried to figure out, like, where am I allowed to go? What am I supposed to be doing? What weapons am I allowed to use in this segment? And now, it's a bit less tedious, where the Chieftains have been kind of converted into Alphas, Majors, Captains, all kinds of other ranks. And so, one, there's more variety of the enemies that you're fighting rather than a quadro of Chieftains, but 2, it's certainly easier to deal with these other variants rather than that many Chieftains. The laser, of course, instantly kills them, so if you're willing and brazen enough to just start running into them with the laser, you'll get some stuff done. Except the alphas, which have that odd kind of tenacity feel. The alphas love to survive more than they really should. That's kind of the alpha's gimmick. Look at this guy. We can kind of actually see his armor a little bit better now. Excuse me, sir. You just let me punch this man. Well, in my defense, I was trying to flip this brute over. There we go. Now you can kind of see a bit more of his armor. You can see this kind of wonderful detailing. This goes from red to orange, to red to orange. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the Brute Alpha. And yeah, you can see these kind of red emblems that kind of are sprayed all along. We've got those right there. Huge fan of how their armor turned out. Yeah, it's great. So yeah, this fight isn't quite as horrific if you're going into it with a plan. There are certainly more brutes just around in general, but yeah, I think this is fine. I think probably the only thing that will change from this to the eventual release is I'll probably add just some more filler brutes in this section in general, because I think that it's kind of fun at the very end to be fighting this kind of giant swarm of them. But overall, pretty happy with how this all plays out, and yeah, it's good. It's quality. Alright, well, that's been our wonderful Exodus level. You can kind of see how I've really tried to change the shape of this level from the previous Prometheus release. And I've really tried to go very far out of my way to make things... make it so there's more approaches to winning than just dodging the flamethrower and hoping for the best.
Noble 2, Noble 6, Noble 5, do you copy? This is 6. Go ahead, Noble 2.
I'm pretty happy with the progress on this level so far. Anyways, see y'all next time when I record an hour-long video at 2 a.m. When I work in the morning. You know. Prometheus version 0.4 will be done very, very soon. The previous release was 0.3. I very generously am saying that this is 40% of all the things I want to put into Halo Reach, but I don't even know if that's true necessarily. This patch will be everything that I can put into Halo Reach in a little over a year's time. Give me 5 years, maybe I'll make some more stuff, but this is about how much I can put into this game given a year's time. Anyways, see you next time.